Hello, Juan.
Hello, Anatoly. Good to see you. How are you doing?
Good. So let's start. And today we're handing over the Westernization Award in the Lifestyle Westernization category. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic and travel restrictions, this year the award is being handed over remotely. Juan Navas-Sabater, lead ICT specialist, program manager for the European Union, Europe and Central Asia in the World Bank, is awarded in the category Westernization of Lifestyle in recognition of his contribution to providing fast broadband internet to millions of people in Central Asia through the World Bank's Digital CASA project. So please, Juan, tell us a little bit more about the Digital CASA project and its aims and goals in Central Asia.
Thank you, Anatoly. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and thanks a lot for the kind words. I don't think I deserve that much praise. We're only at the early stages, so we'll see how things evolve. But Digital CASA is a regional program that was designed to help the countries in Central Asia and parts of South Asia. So that's why it's called CASA, Central Asia, South Asia. It focuses on the landlocked countries of that region. So it includes also Afghanistan. The idea is to help those countries that are landlocked in improving their connectivity among themselves and with the rest of the world, so that they have better options in terms of negotiating good prices for internet bandwidth with multiple providers, and for them to be able to reduce the digital divide also within the countries, so they can develop their national backbone networks and deliver broadband to rural areas and to remote locations within the countries. But we also realized that focusing the program exclusively on connectivity was not enough. We needed to have the demand side as well embedded in the program. And that's why the program also includes the components related to improving the delivery of services by government. So digital government services and interoperability between different agencies in their delivery of services, as well as the improving the use by the private sector of ICT in general. So with a focus in some cases on developing the local IT industry, entrepreneurship, and very importantly, developing digital skills, right? But one of the core components of Digital CASA is actually a soft component. It is the legal and regulatory framework. And that is the most, actually, that's the basis of the Digital CASA program. Without improvements in the legal and regulatory frameworks for digital connectivity, for broadband, as well as for data economy issues, in particular issues of privacy and data protection, without all that in place, it is very difficult to achieve the benefits of more digital integration, especially in the post-COVID world, right? And not even post-COVID, we're in the middle of the COVID emergency. So we put a lot of emphasis on this soft component, which is not large in dollar terms, but it is actually crucial for the success of the regional program. I'll stop here and we can talk more about that if you'd like.
Yeah, so I thank you for this. And we know that the Central Asia is a region that basically was more based on agriculture and the traditional industries. What are your expectations, thanks to the Digital CASA development in the region? Would the digital economy become a third pillar in this region besides the agriculture and tourism?
Yes, well, that is also part of the expectation, that by collaborating, even though each country taken individually is probably too small of a market to actually become a big player in the international arena, when you put them together, you actually have a critical mass. And if there's good collaboration among the Central Asian countries, they can actually become what we call a digital hub in the Eurasian continent, right? So there's the broadband component, connecting Europe to Asia, where Central Asia is actually the hub, or can become the hub as an alternative to the submarine cables that bypass Central Asia. But in addition to that, there's the whole data economy. So data centers and the underlying or the surrounding ecosystem that comes with that in terms of digital entrepreneurship, IT companies, and so on. All of that is part of the aspirations of the digital CASA. We're hoping that through this program, and we did some economic analysis, we can not only impact at the macro level, the GDP of the countries, so it will there will be an improvement in the GDP, and according to our estimates, just on the broadband component, countries can add at least 1% to their GDP in terms of annual growth. So that is a massive impact already. But it can also impact at the micro level in terms of creating new jobs, on new innovative and higher end jobs. In the case of Kyrgyzstan, for instance, we calculated that it can create up to 50,000 new jobs in the ICT sector just over the next 7 to 10 years, right? If it follows the same model as Moldova, which we did something similar just 10 years ago, and we see those results, right? Now, in the case of Moldova, a big impact was achieved just through the opening of the telecom sector. They had, like in most of Central Asia, a telecom sector that was monopolized, and just overnight, almost within a matter of a few months, they opened up to competition. Any international player was allowed to connect directly to international networks, and prices came down 90%, right? And that was a massive bonus to the IT industry, which was nascent at that time. Moldova had a small but growing IT industry. They had invested in maths programs, in science and technology, and the young entrepreneurs were beginning to develop as programmers and deliver services abroad. So something similar we're expecting can happen in Central Asia. The transition, as you were saying, from agriculture to IT industry will not happen overnight, obviously, but there's already a critical mass of youth that is entering technical universities and that is acquiring those technical skills. In Uzbekistan, for instance, there are several IT universities already generating good numbers of programmers. So that, I think, with the support of Digital CASA and with the programs that the governments themselves are launching, with the IT parks that are being established, I think they can achieve that. There's also the venture capital dimension, access to venture finance, and that is also something that we calculated can create significant revenues also to the industry, and to the and modernizing the economy and the delivery of government services. So if the governments in Central Asia actually take as a starting point the objective of promoting private sector development and private sector investment, and the government retreats into a role of facilitator and only fixing where there are market gaps and where there are actual real market failures, the impact can be massive, and the private sector will take care of itself, and the private investment will actually flow to the region. There's also the geographic location of Central Asia, and in particular a number of countries that have access to low low carbon energy, right? So there's green energy available in particular in Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, which can actually make the data center business quite lucrative as well as green, right? And that today, I think in the context of COVID, we need to also pay attention to climate impacts. So having this combination and having countries, as I say, collaborate in creating a network of green data centers in Central Asia can actually be another pool for private investment and for creation of this digital hub that I was talking about.
And Juan, you were talking in terms of digital hub, but what is the level of synergy and what is the expected level of synergy between the regional economies, at least at the digital layer?
Yeah, so there are synergies in the sense that not all the countries have the same interest in terms of sectors. So for instance, Uzbekistan is a very agricultural sector. The agriculture is a big part of the economy. So much of the digitalization efforts in Uzbekistan can be devoted to the agricultural sector and become more efficient in that particular space. Other countries can specialize in other sectors and they can exchange experiences. So they can jointly invest in digitalization efforts that can be shared across the region. There's the European Union experience also with COVID-19, for instance, the applications that were developed for contact tracing, for instance, just to put a small example on the table. Not every country is developing its own. They are actually, they have developed standards to exchange data, and the different applications can be replicated and can be applied in various countries. So there are the private sector can come in and develop those applications following the single European standard, and then that same application can be customized to different countries. A similar approach can be taken in Central Asia generally. If they agree on a set of standards for different sectors, they can easily share the resources and collectively can develop applications more cheaply, and the synergies can be obtained. There are obvious synergies also at the infrastructure level. Once you create a network of interconnected broadband backbone networks in the region, if one country suffers a failure, they can very quickly redirect traffic through the other countries, which right now is impossible. Some countries rely on just one neighbor. So if that one neighbor cuts the cable, that country can become virtually isolated, right? So that level of synergy in having multiple cross-border connection points is significant and can help develop this digital hub that I was talking about. And then in the data center business, again, as I mentioned, having each country develop their own data center, but having them interconnected, they can actually rely on one another for backup purposes, obviously for non-confidential critical data, but 90%, we estimate, 90% of government data is actually non-confidential. So that can actually be another way in which those synergies can be extracted. And finally, at the legal and regulatory level, since all these countries share a common basic legal framework, they can actually rely on the most advanced countries in terms of developing the open legal framework for telecommunications and data, and not redevelop the same framework. So having a common set of standards also at the legal and regulatory framework and technical standards is another area of synergies that can be exploited.
Juan, thank you very much for the great job that you are doing there, and we absolutely support this initiative as one of the most original and the fruitful initiatives in this region that we're active in Eurasia. And again, congratulations with the award, and they hope to collaborate in the future as usual. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Anatoly. It's been a pleasure.